Maya for leaving my husband after finding a dark secret in a music box he broke? My in-laws Phil and Carol were sitting across from me. My 5-year-old daughter Lucy was playing at my feet with a doll. My husband Brandon stared at his empty plate. The piece was an illusion. Maya, Phil began. His voice was cold like the marble of the table. We need to talk. A family matter. Carol nodded, avoiding my gaze. Yes, it cannot wait any longer. Is something wrong? I asked, placing my fork on the table. Brandon did not look up. What is wrong, Phil said, is that this family needs a future. A future with continuity, with a surname that endures. A knot of ice formed in my stomach. Lucy is the future. She is your granddaughter. Carol let out a contemptuous sound. A girl. A girl is a bouquet of flowers. It withers. Goes away. A boy. A son. He is the tree. He puts down roots, provides shade, endures. Are you saying, my voice trembled. Could not be. We are saying you have failed. Phil cut in dryly. You have failed in your most basic duty. To give Brandon, to give this house an heir. I looked at Brandon. Brandon, are you hearing this? He kept staring at his plate. His hands on the table were motionless. He said nothing. His silence was a blow stronger than his father's words. But this is absurd, I exclaimed, standing up. Lucy clung to my leg. We are in the 21st century. Lucy is perfect, she is intelligent, she is strong, she is not a boy, Carol repeated with a terrifying calm. 7 years of marriage. 7. And only one girl. The fault is yours. You, your constitution, your family. The insult burned me. My family has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with it, Phil said, standing up as well. His figure was authoritarian. You have brought weakness to this family. Only problems. First with that freelance graphic design job of yours, always on the road for client meetings. Now this. You do not produce an heir. You are no longer welcome here. The heir vanished from the room. What? What are you saying? That you should leave, Carol said, dabbing her lips with her napkin as if she had just finished a disagreeable meal. You and the girl. This house needs a new beginning. Brandon needs a woman who can give him a son. I looked at my husband, pleading. Brandon, please tell them they are crazy. Tell them we are not leaving our home. At last Brandon moved his head. Slowly. He did not look at me. He looked at his father and nodded. A small, imperceptible movement. No, I whispered. You have a week, Phil said. Pack your things and the girls and go. This is my house too, I shouted, hugging Lucy, who was beginning to cry. This is the Reynolds family house, Phil corrected. You were just an accessory, a defective one. Pure hot rage rose in my throat. But before I could speak, Brandon moved. He stood up silently and left the dining room. He returned a moment later. In his hands, he carried the antique lacquered wood music box that had been his wedding gift to me. My box of dreams, I called it, where I kept small mementos. Take it, he said. His voice was hoarse, dead. This is the only thing you brought that really mattered, was it not? He held it in front of me for a moment. Then, with a brusque gesture, he walked to the open window that overlooked the backyard patio and threw it out. I heard the crack of the wood as it shattered against the tiles below. A final dry sound like my heart breaking. Now you have nothing tying you here, Brandon said, unable to look me in the eye. It was then that I knew it was all over, that the man I had married had died a long time ago, perhaps he had never existed. Come, darling, I said to Lucy with a calm I did not feel. Let us go pack. We are going on a trip. Where to, Mommy? She asked between sobs. On an adventure, I replied, walking past my in-laws who watched me with disdain. Walking past Brandon, the shadow of a man. Just the two of us. I did not take much. Clothes for Lucy, for me. Some documents, the photos from my nightstand. Before I finished packing, I slipped downstairs to the patio, gathered the broken pieces of the music box into a paper bag, and carried it with me. In less than an hour, I was out of the house in the Lincoln Park neighborhood that I had believed was my home. Take me to a hotel, please. A central one, I told the Uber driver. The driver nodded. Any problem, ma'am? I looked out the window, the lights of Chicago parading by like someone else's dream. No. A new beginning. I chose a discreet hotel near the Magnificent Mile. The room was anonymous, impersonal. 2 beds, a bathroom. Silence. Lucy, exhausted, fell asleep almost immediately. I could not. I sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. The emptiness was enormous until I remembered the music box. I had heard it break, but I needed to see it. I needed to confirm that that part of my life was also destroyed. I wrapped myself in a jacket and went down to the reception. Excuse me. When I came in, perhaps the staff picked up something broken, a small wooden box. The receptionist looked at me with pity. One moment, ma'am. He returned with a paper bag. Inside were the remains of my box, the lid detached, the interior mirror shattered, the music box silenced forever. Thank you, I murmured. Back in the room, I left the bag on the nightstand. It had no value. It was just a broken symbol like my marriage. I lay down next to Lucy, listening to her quiet breathing, and closed my eyes, overcome by an infinite weariness. My sleep was short and restless. A noise woke me. It was still early morning. Lucy had turned over in bed and, with a sudden movement of her arm, had knocked over the paper bag. The broken box fell to the floor with a dull thud. I got up, whispering so as not to wake her. I picked up the pieces. Maybe I could save something. The small brooch that was inside. The photo of my mother. Carefully, I separated the wood fragments and then I saw it. At the bottom of the box where the velvet base was, something had come loose with the impact. The edge of a different kind of paper was sticking out from one side. It was not the original. With my heart pounding, I slipped my fingernail under it and lifted carefully. The velvet peeled away. Underneath was not bare wood. There was a hidden, shallow compartment, and inside were several folded papers. I took them out with trembling hands. I sat on the carpet in the dim light of the bedside lamp. I unfolded the first one. It was a medical report. The name Brandon Reynolds. The date. Almost 8 years ago. Just before our wedding. My eyes scanned the lines, searching for the diagnosis. The technical words and then the clear, brutal conclusion. Obstructive non-correctable azoospermia. Permanent infertility. I could not breathe. Brandon was sterile. Always had been. With even shakier hands, I picked up the second paper. It was a legal document notarized, a gamete donation contract. Donor Jake Reynolds. Recipient. Maya Reynolds, future wife of Brandon Reynolds. Date. 7 years and 5 months ago. 9 months before Lucy's birth. Jake, Brandon's younger brother, the black sheep of the family, the one who went to work in Toronto 6 years ago, and with whom there was almost no contact. I looked at Lucy sleeping peacefully. Her curly hair, the way she frowned. I had always thought she looked like my aunt, but now other features took on a different, terrible meaning. The last paper was a handwritten note in a script I recognized as Carol's, my mother-in-law's. Brandon's son, this is what must be done. It is for the good of the family. The girl does not need to know. Ever. She will sign where you tell her. Jake has already done his part. He will do what is necessary for the family and then he will leave. You will be the father. She will be the mother, and the family will continue. It is the only thing that matters. With us you will never fail. Mom! The paper fell from my hands. There was no scream, no cry, just a huge icy silence filling every corner of the hotel room. I looked at my daughter, my Lucy. Then I looked at the papers on the floor. The proof of the perfect lie, the sham. And then very slowly, a new feeling began to burn away the ice inside me. It was not pain, it was not sadness. It was pure, clear, and resolute rage. I picked up the medical report, I picked up the contract, I picked up Carol's note. I put them in my purse. Then I gathered the wooden pieces of the old box and put them back in the paper bag. It was no longer a symbol of what I had lost. It was the weapon with which I would begin to fight. The rage was an engine vibrating in my chest, keeping me on my feet, awake, when everything in me wanted to collapse. I put the papers in my purse with hands that no longer trembled. They were cold, precise. They were my weapons. I looked at Lucy sleeping. Her profile so innocent. Whose are you? The cruel question shot through my mind, but I pushed it away. She was mine. My daughter. She had been for 5 years. She always would be. The rest was biology, a biology poisoned by a lie. I needed to think. I needed a plan. And I needed someone to trust. Only one name came to mind, Sophie. Sophie Rivera, my friend from college, a lawyer, the most intelligent and ruthlessly logical person I knew. And most importantly, she cordially detested my father-in-law, Phil. I looked at the clock. 5:17 in the morning, too early to call. But I could not wait. Every minute in this hotel room, with those papers burning a hole in my purse, was a minute lost. I found my phone, dialed her number. It rang 3 times for. Just as I was about to hang up, a hoarse, sleepy voice answered. Maya? My God, what is wrong? Are you okay? The concern in her voice was a bomb. It almost made me cry. Almost. No, Sophie, I am not okay. I need to see you. Now. Now? Maya, it is. I know. I have left Brandon. Or rather, he and his parents have thrown us out. I am in a hotel and I have found something. Something big, monstrous. I need my lawyer, Sophie. Not my friend, my lawyer. There was a silence on the other end. Then the sound of sheets moving. Tell me where. An hour later, Sophie walked into my hotel room. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun. She looked younger, but her eyes, a steely gray, were already wide awake, analyzing the situation. The messy room, a sleeping Lucy, my pale and tense face. Without a word, she hugged me. It was brief, solid. Then she pulled away. Tell me everything. From the beginning. I sat on the bed and told her. The dinner, the words of Phil and Carol, Brandon's silence, the box thrown from the window, and then the discovery. I took the papers out of my purse and handed them to her in silence. Sophie took them. She sat in the chair under the lamplight. She read the medical report first. Her brow furrowed. Then the donation contract. Her eyes widened slightly. Finally, Carol's note. When she finished, she looked up at me. There was no surprise on her face. There was a cold, contained fury. What they did is unforgivable, she said with a terrifying calm. I cannot even find the words. Did you know? I asked almost in a whisper. Did you know anything? No, not this. Not the details. But I always suspected. Maya, remember when you got married? How they all insisted, especially Carol, that you go to that private clinic for premarital checkups. A hazy memory took shape. Yes, they said it was protocol to make sure everything was okay. I went. Brandon said he had already done his on his own. A lie, Sophie spat. He already had this report. I'm sure of it. The clinic you went to, Family Well-Being. Remember who recommended it? I thought about it. Carol said it was the best. It is a discreet, expensive clinic, heavily used by certain traditional families to arrange their reproductive affairs quietly, Sophie said with contempt. I bet the donation contract was handled there. Jake gave his sample. They performed an insemination on you, probably during one of your checkups, without you knowing. And 9 months later, Lucy was born. The perfect heir. With the Reynolds DNA, but without the stigma of her father's infertility. Every word was a hammer blow. And Jake, he left shortly after. He barely speaks to the family. That is the price, Maya, Sophie said, sighing. Look at the date on the contract. 7.5 years ago. Jake left 6 years ago. They gave him a push. They paid him, got him a job in Toronto, something to keep him away, so there would be no risk of emotional complications or claims. I stood up, unable to stay still. I have to talk to him, to Jake. No. Not yet. Sophie's voice was firm. We do not know whose side he is on. He might be in on all of this, or he might have been threatened. If you warn him, he might warn his parents, and we would lose the element of surprise. Element of surprise? Sophie, what are you talking about? She leaned forward. Maya, this is not just a divorce. This is a war. And Phil and Carol are not going to sit back. They just threw you out of your house. They have money, influence, and a clear target, Lucy. A chill ran down my spine. Lucy is a Reynolds by blood, according to them. And you are a problematic mother who has just been kicked out of the marital home, with no resources of your own, living in a hotel. What do you think they will do? The answer came before she said it. They will try to take her from me. Exactly. They will file for custody. They will claim you are mentally unstable, that you do not have a stable home, that you are a bad influence. And they, the respectable grandparents with their grand house and fortune, can offer her a stable environment. Brandon, as the legal father, will support the claim. It is his only way to save face now. But he is not her father. I shouted, immediately lowering my voice when I saw Lucy stir. Legally he is, Sophie said harshly. He is on the birth certificate. This donation contract changes everything for us for our strategy, but in court, Brandon's legal paternity is very strong. And these papers, she waved them gently, are a double-edged sword. If we use them, we reveal the secret. We reveal that Lucy is biologically Jake's daughter. That could cause her enormous trauma in the future, and it could be used against you. They could say you concealed this information, that you are manipulative. I sat down again, overwhelmed. So I am trapped. I cannot do anything. Sophie gave a small, fierce smile. On the contrary. Now we have the initiative. They do not know you have this. They think you are just a hurt, scared woman with no resources. We have to move fast. First, stability. You need an apartment rented in your name. Tomorrow. I will take care of it. Second, your work. Are you still doing freelance projects? Yes. I have some commissions. I can work from anywhere. Good. Show income. Third, and most importantly, we need to counter their first move, and they will make it soon. What move? A complaint for abandonment of the home? Or a request for mandatory family mediation where they paint a picture of an unbalanced mother? Or directly, an injunction for grandparent visits that ends up being a provisional custody right? Sophie took a deep breath. We have to strike first with something that throws them off balance. Like what? Her gray eyes gleamed. Jake. You are right, you need to talk to him. But not to ask for help. To understand his position, to offer him a way out, and to have his testimony if we need it. If he confirms he was coerced, that he was forced, this contract becomes our most powerful evidence. Proof of your in-laws' scheme, of the entire sham. That can destroy their credibility before a judge. And if he does not want to? If he is on their side? Then at least we will know what we are up against. But based on his departure, his distance, I am betting he is not on their side. I am betting he holds a grudge. Sophie looked at her watch. It is 7 in the morning. I am going to my office to open a file. You try to get some rest. Then find Jake. Do you have any contact info? An old cell number and email? We have not spoken in years. Try it. Be careful. Do not show him all your cards yet. Just test the waters. She stood up and put a hand on my shoulder. Maya, this is going to get ugly. Very ugly. Are you ready? I looked at my sleeping daughter. I looked at the papers on the table. I remembered Brandon's face as he threw my box out the window. I remembered Carol's cold smile. The rage, that engine roared inside me. I have never been more ready, I said. And my voice sounded strangely serene. Let us turn them to dust, Sophie. Jake's phone rang, a long-distance tone. I was calling from an app, using a hidden number. Sophie had told me it was better that way. My heart hammered against my ribs. On the other end, the hiss of an empty line. Once, twice. Yes. The voice was rough, sleepy. Toronto was an hour ahead. It must have been very early there too. Jake, it is Maya. I fell silent, letting the name sink in. I could only hear his breathing faster now. Maya, your brother's wife. Maya. He repeated my name. He did not sound hostile. He sounded scared. What? What has happened? Is Brandon okay? My parents. No, the word came out sharp. They are not okay. Nothing is okay. Jake, I need to talk to you. It is about Lucy. And about a contract, a gamete donation contract signed by you 7 years and 5 months ago. The silence on the other end was absolute, so thick I thought the line had disconnected. Jake. Oh my God. His voice was a hoarse, broken whisper. Oh my God, Maya, I am sorry. I am so sorry. They were not just words. It was a strangled cry, a weight crumbling after years. How? How do you know? I found the papers. In a hidden compartment in my old wedding box. They He swallowed hard. They said they destroyed it. That it was the only copy. That you would never know. They swore no one would ever know. They lied. I let the simple truth hang in the air. Then the important question. Jake, was it them? Was it your parents? A short, bitter laugh came through the phone. My parents. Of course it was them. It was all my mother's idea. My father seconded it and Brandon. He paused. Brandon accepted. He was destroyed when he found out about his condition. Devastated. Said he was not a man. My mother told him there was a solution, a clean family solution. That I would help. That it was my duty. And what did they tell you? My voice was cold. I needed to hear it. They told me it was for the family, that it would save my brother, that you would never know, that it would be as if it never happened. And afterward they asked me to leave. That it was for the best, to avoid temptations, they said. So no one would suspect. My father had a contact at an engineering firm in Toronto. Position a good one. It is your chance, Jake, he told me. Here you will always be the younger brother, the less serious one. There you can start fresh. And you will be doing us all a favor. And you signed. You agreed. Without talking to me. I could not hide the pain in my voice. It was my family, Maya. His voice erupted, full of anguish. They pressured me. They made me feel selfish for refusing. They told me I would ruin Brandon's life, yours, everyone's future. And I was young, 22 years old. I was scared. And I left. I have lived with this every single day. Every time I see a picture of Lucy on social media. Every time his voice broke. She is my daughter, Maya. And I have no right to call her that. The pain in his voice was real, authentic. The rage burning in me subsided a little, giving way to a sour pity. He had been a victim too. Another pawn. And what now, Jake? Now that I know. Now that they have thrown me out of the house for not giving your brother a male heir. A son he could never have. What? His voice was one of pure disbelief. They threw you out for that? Yes. Last night. Your mother and father. And Brandon said nothing. He just threw my box out the window. I am in a hotel with Lucy. I heard a loud curse on the other end. Then a noise as if he had hit something. They are insane. They are monsters. Maya, I am sorry. There are no words. What are you going to do? Fight. The word came out clear as crystal. I am going to fight for my daughter. And I need to know whose side you are on. Yours. The answer was instant, without hesitation. Tell me what you need. Money, a lawyer, anything. I need the truth, Jake. I need you to be prepared to tell it. To a judge, if necessary. They are going to try to take Lucy from me. They will say I am an unstable mother, that I have no means. They will use all their power. They will, he confirmed bitterly. It is what they do. Control, manipulate, destroy what they cannot control. I refused to be controlled and they exiled me. Literally. He paused. Maya, I have savings. I am not rich, but I can help you. And I will testify. I owe that to you, to Lucy. A great weight lifted from my shoulders. I was not alone. Thank you, Jake. I am not asking you to come now, but be ready. My lawyer, Sophie Rivera, will contact you. She is good. The best. Listen to what she tells you. Sophie, your friend from college, the lawyer. I remember her. Good. His voice calmed a bit, taking on a more practical tone. Maya, be careful. My father will not give up easily. He is capable of anything to save face. I know, I said. And I knew it. Stay close to your phone, Jake. I will. And Maya, he hesitated. Tell Lucy. Tell her that her Uncle Jake thinks about her. Every day. I hung up. I leaned against the wall, feeling the adrenaline dissipate, leaving me exhausted. Lucy stirred in her bed. Mommy, who were you talking to? I went over and sat beside her, stroking her hair. Someone from the family, sweetie. Someone who wants to help us. Grandpa Phil. Her little voice was hopeful. She had always wanted to please him. No, my love, no. Not Grandpa Phil. Another relative. A good one. Later in Sophie's office, I told her about the conversation. She nodded, taking notes. Good, that is a good start. His reaction is positive. His willingness to testify is even better. But we cannot rely on that alone. We have to act fast. I have already sent the papers to a handwriting expert to certify the signatures in Carol's handwriting, and to a trusted doctor to analyze Brandon's report. Meanwhile, I have rented this. She slid a set of keys across the table. It is a furnished apartment in Wicker Park. It is not the Lincoln Park neighborhood, but it is safe, bright, and the lease is in your name. You need to move in today. Establishing a stable home is important for the judge. Will it go to a judge that quickly? Sophie put her elbows on the table. Maya, I would bet anything that right now, Phil has already called his lawyer. And his first move will not be to ask for custody directly. It will be something more subtle, dirtier. Like what? Like requesting an urgent psychological evaluation of the mother. Alleging erratic behavior after the family breakdown, posing a risk to the minor. With a private medical report, they can request an injunction for Lucy to stay with them or in a facility until the evaluation is completed. And those evaluations can take months. Cold, sharp panic pricked my stomach. They cannot. They will not take her. Not if we get there first. This morning I filed a police report for emotional abuse and coercion, naming Phil, Carol, and Brandon. And I have requested a temporary order of protection for them in relation to you and Lucy. With these papers as an indication of their motives and manipulation, a judge on duty could sign it. It is just a first step, but it puts them on the defensive. It forces them to react to our move, not the other way around. I looked at her impressed. You have already done all that? It is my job. And they went way too far. She smiled humorlessly. Now you go to the apartment, get settled, get Lucy out of the hotel. Then go to your bank, withdraw cash, whatever you can. Move your accounts if necessary. Your joint account with Brandon, block it. They will control all shared accounts, and your additional credit card is probably already canceled. She was right. I had not thought about the money. Brandon had always handled the big accounts. I had my freelance income but not many savings. I am going right now. One more thing, Maya. Her voice softened. This is going to be hard, very hard. They are going to bring up everything they have against you. Your job, that you were sometimes away on trips. Any argument, any moment of stress, they will use it. You have to be strong for Lucy. I nodded. For Lucy. For me. I left her office with the keys in my hand, an address written down, and a to-do list. I was no longer just a betrayed woman. I was a general preparing for her first battle. And the battle I knew had just begun. The apartment in Wicker Park smelled of clean and fresh paint. It was small, bright, impersonal, our refuge. Lucy looked at everything with wide eyes. Mommy, is this our new house? Yes, sweetie. For a while. The open suitcase on the floor seemed ridiculous in the midst of so much whiteness. My phone vibrated. A message from Sophie. Judge granted temporary order of protection. 500 feet. For all three. Will last until the hearing. It is a breather. I will be there in an hour. A sigh of relief washed over me. 500 feet. They could not come near. It was something. In the meantime, I had to act. I took out my computer, the bank accounts. The joint account with Brandon was already blocked, as Sophie had predicted. My additional credit card was declined in an online payment attempt. I was left with only my personal account with my modest freelance savings. It was enough for the deposit and a month's rent. Little more. The doorbell rang. Sophie, I assumed. But when I opened the door, I found a tall, tired-looking man with a backpack at his feet. He had the Reynolds eyes, but lighter, sadder. Jake. We looked at each other for a moment in silence. Lucy, hiding behind my leg, peeked out. Mommy, who is it? Jake looked down at her. His expression crumbled for a second, a torrent of pain and tenderness. Then he looked at me. I took the first flight, he said in a hoarse voice. I had to come. Jake, this was not the plan. You said we would wait. Let you face this alone? No. He shook his head. Sophie called me. She told me about the possible psychological evaluation. No, Maya, this has gone too far. It is time for me to be here. I let him in. He closed the door and stood still, looking at the modest living room. Lucy did not take her eyes off him. You are Uncle Jake. The one from the old pictures. Yes, he said, and his voice softened. Yes, I am. Hello, Lucy. He crouched down to her level. Your mommy has told me a lot about you. My daddy does not. He says you live very far away and do not like to talk. The innocence of her words pierced us like a knife. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Your daddy sometimes says things that are not entirely true, he said carefully. Then he looked up at me. Where is Sophie? On her way. I sat on the sofa, suddenly exhausted. And now what, Jake? What do we do with you here? It might be worse. They might use it against me. And Brandon's brother. He stopped, looking at Lucy, who was watching us with intrigue. And someone who knows the truth. That is what I am. And they need to know that I know. That I am not going to run away again. His determination was palpable, but so was his pain. Have you talked to them? To your parents? Do they know you are in Chicago? My father called me when I landed. He grimaced. He said, stay out of it, Jake. Go back to Toronto. This is none of your business. We will fix this as a family. Period. And what did you say? I said, Dad, this became my business the day you forced me to donate my sperm to deceive my sister-in-law. He hung up. A bitter smile played on his lips. I do not think he took it well. A sharp knock on the door startled us. It was not Sophie. She would have called. Jake jumped to his feet. I went to the peephole. It was Brandon. He was pale with deep dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had not slept. He was wearing the same wrinkled suit from the night before. He knocked again, harder. Maya, I know you are there. Open up. We need to talk. I looked at Jake. He nodded, his jaw tight. Open it. Better here with witnesses than on the street. I opened the door but left the chain on. What do you want, Brandon? There is an order of protection. You should not be here. She is my daughter. I want to see my daughter. His voice was shrill, desperate. His eyes searched through the crack and then he saw him. Jake, standing in the middle of my living room. His expression froze, then twisted into a mask of anger and pain. He is already here. You have already sided with him. Brandon, calm down. I will not calm down. Look at you two. How long have you been plotting this? Since when? Was it before we threw you out? Were you already with him? The words were poison, jealous, absurd. Jake approached the door. His presence at my back was solid. Brandon, this is not about that, and you know it. Shut up. You have no right to speak. To anything. You left. That was the deal, Brandon shouted, losing the last remnants of his composure. The deal. My voice was icy. The deal to lie to me, to turn my body and my life into your sham? He looked at me and for a second I saw the man I had loved. Scared, lost. But then the mask of resentment returned. We had a family. It was perfect. And you are destroying everything. You bring him here. I came alone, Brandon. Jake cut in with a firm voice. Because it is enough. Because what you did, what you made me do to me, to her was a monstrosity. And it is over. You are going to tell everyone? Destroy our name? Destroy Lucy. Brandon's voice broke into a sob of rage. She is my daughter, is she not? The voice came from behind me. Small, trembling. Lucy had approached, her big eyes filled with tears, looking at her father through the crack. You threw Mommy's music box. You are mean. Lucy. No, honey. No. Brandon deflated. His anger vanished, leaving only a horrible desolation. Daddy is not mean. Daddy was confused. I do not want to see you, Lucy said with absolute childish conviction and turned away, hiding her face in my waist. The silence was brutal. Brandon looked at me, at Jake, at his daughter's back. He seemed to shrink. Maya, please. We can fix this. In the family. Without lawyers, without scandals. Come home. I will talk to my parents. We will accept Lucy. It will be like before. Like before. I repeated, unable to believe what I was hearing. Like when you were throwing me out of my house. Like when you were lying to me every day. Like when your mother was writing notes planning how to deceive me. No, Brandon. Nothing will ever be like before. I will give you whatever you want. Money, the house, shared custody. But do not make this public, please. His plea was pathetic. The family honor. Your family has no honor, Jake said with a deadly calm. It only has appearances and they have been shattered. Brandon, leave before I call the police for violating the order. Brandon looked at both of us standing side by side. A war was raging on his face. Fear, shame, a glimmer of remorse. Fear won. He turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I closed the door. My legs were shaking. Jake put a hand on my shoulder. I am sorry. I am sorry you had to see that. He is not the man I married, I whispered. Or maybe he was, and I just never wanted to see it. The doorbell rang again, this time more restrained. It was Sophie. Seeing my face and Jake standing there, she raised an eyebrow. I see the family reunion started without me. We told her about Brandon. Sophie nodded thoughtfully. Well, he is scared. That is good. A scared man makes bad decisions. And we need him or his parents to make them. She took out her tablet. I have received an email from the Reynolds family's law firm. Their lawyer. Already? My heart pounded. Yes. It is a generous offer in financial terms. A lifelong pension for you, the vacation home in Naples, Florida. Very broad shared custody for Brandon. In exchange for you dropping the complaint, signing a perpetual confidentiality agreement about certain family matters, and leaving Chicago. And of course for Jake to return to Toronto and keep quiet. I looked at both of them. It is a bribe. It is exactly a bribe, Sophie confirmed. And it comes with a clear subtext. Take the money and disappear. Or else. Or else what? Jake asked, crossing his arms. Or else they move to Plan B. They have already activated it, in fact. While they were sending this friendly offer, they filed a request in family court. They are asking for an urgent psychological evaluation of the mother, meaning you, Maya, alleging erratic behavior, possible parental alienation syndrome, and emotional instability after the breakup that puts the minor's well-being at risk. And they are asking that during the evaluation, provisional custody be granted to the father and, given his work schedule, to the paternal grandparents. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. No. They will not take her. No way, Jake said fiercely. Not yet, Sophie said, and there was a dangerous glint in her eyes. Because we are not going to respond to their offer or their request. We are going to attack. How? I asked. With this, she patted her bag where the copies of the documents were, and with testimony. Jake, are you willing to sign a sworn affidavit detailing how your parents and brother coerced you into the donation, and then exiled you? Jake did not hesitate. Yes. And Sophie took a deep breath. This is harder. Would you be willing, if necessary, to request a paternity test? To legally recognize Lucy as your biological daughter? The air was cut short. I looked at Jake. He turned pale. His eyes sought out Lucy, who was playing in her new room. Then he looked at me. Maya, that has to be your decision. And hers when she is older. I do not want to take anything from you. I just want to help. My thoughts swirled. It was a bombshell. Paternity recognition. That would change everything forever. But it would also be the ultimate weapon against Phil and Carol. It would prove their lie in the most irrevocable way. Keep it as a last resort, I said finally, my voice tense. But let them know it is an option. Let them know we are willing to go all the way. Sophie nodded, satisfied. I will do that. Tomorrow I will file a counterclaim challenging Brandon's paternity based on fraud, and request the suspension of any injunction until that fundamental point is resolved. It will be an earthquake, and it will scare them. Good, I said, feeling the rage turn into a cold, solid determination. Let them tremble. Jake went to the window, looking out at the street. It is going to be a very dirty war, Maya. It already is, Jake, I replied, following his gaze. But now, for the first time, we have the heavy artillery. Outside, night was falling on Chicago. Inside, the three of us were silent, each bearing the weight of the battle to come. But I was no longer alone. And that for now was the only victory I needed. The summons arrived in the morning. A thick envelope, official paper. Sophie brought it personally, her brow furrowed. It is from their lawyer. Formal, cold. They are requesting mandatory family mediation. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning at the family court. So fast? I asked, feeling a prick of anxiety. We were in the small living room. Jake was making coffee in the kitchen. Lucy was watching cartoons with headphones on. It is not fast. It is a calculated move. They want you off balance with no time to prepare. Mediation is confidential, but if an agreement is reached, the judge ratifies it. If not, the mediator issues a report that can influence the judge on duty. They want to pressure you there, in that room face to face with their star lawyer and their false grandparental concern. Sophie took a sip of the coffee Jake offered her. Thank you. We filed our counterclaim to challenge paternity yesterday. This is their response. They want to sit us down to negotiate before our bomb goes off. Are we going? Jake asked, leaning against the doorframe. He seemed firmer, more present since he had arrived. We have to go, Sophie said. If we do not, the mediator's report will say that we were the ones who refused dialogue, the uncooperative ones. But we are not going to negotiate. We are going to stand our ground. Maya, you have to be ready. They are going to try to make you doubt. They are going to use everything they have. Your love for Lucy. Your fear. Your supposed instability. I will not doubt, I said, but my voice sounded weaker than I intended. Can I go? Jake asked suddenly. As support. Not to talk, just to be there. Sophie looked at him, evaluating him. It could be a good idea and a bad one. His presence could rattle them, make them make mistakes. But it could also be used against you, Maya. Influence of the brother-in-law. New disruptive male figure. It is a risk. I want him to come, I said, looking at Jake. His face showed a determination that gave me strength. Let them see that I am not alone, that their secret no longer scares us. Sophie nodded. All right. Then tomorrow dress conservatively, seriously. No crying, no matter how hard it gets. You stay calm. I will do the talking. The night was long. I mentally rehearsed every word, every scenario. Lucy woke up twice with nightmares. I dreamed Grandpa Phil took Mommy away. She sobbed against my chest. I held her tight, whispering words of comfort that I myself barely felt. The next morning, the courthouse was a gray, anonymous building. The mediation room was small, with a round table and uncomfortable chairs. They were already there when we entered. Phil and Carol impeccable, as if they were going to a board meeting, cold, distant. Brandon beside them looked like a pale ghost staring at the floor. Their lawyer, a man in his 50s with an expensive suit and an air of superiority, was murmuring something to Phil. When they saw us enter, the silence became thick. Their eyes fell first on me with contempt, then on Sophie with caution, and finally on Jake. Phil's expression hardened like granite. Carol let out a small choked sound of surprise. Brandon looked up and fixed his brother with a look of pure hatred. We were not expecting parties external to the nuclear family, said their lawyer, a Mr. Robert Harlan, in an unctuous voice. Mr. Jake Reynolds is a direct party to one of the matters to be discussed today, Sophie said professionally, sitting down, and has a legitimate interest. He has no interest here, Phil snapped, unable to contain himself. He is an intruder and unstable person. He should be in Toronto, not meddling in affairs that do not concern him. Do not concern me? Jake sat next to me. His voice was calm but loaded. I think they concern me quite a bit, Father. Carol paled. Jake, please, this is not the time. It is the only time, I cut in, speaking for the first time. All eyes turned to me. You requested this mediation. Let us talk. The mediator, a middle-aged man with a tired air, began the session. He explained the rules. Confidentiality, respect, seeking the best interests of the minor. Mr. Harlan took the floor. He spoke of the importance of family, of stability, of the painful misunderstanding that had led to this lamentable separation. He magnanimously proposed a generous agreement. Broad shared custody for Brandon with a very flexible visitation schedule for the grandparents, a substantial compensatory pension for me, and the vacation home in Naples, Florida as the primary residence for Lucy and me, so that the child can have fresh air, a healthy environment, away from urban tensions. An elegant way of saying far from here, far from the truth. Sophie listened, taking notes, then spoke. What my client wants, she said in a clear voice, is sole custody of her daughter Lucy, and the right to decide solely and exclusively on all aspects of her life. Given that Mr. Brandon Reynolds is not the biological father of the child, following a consensual fraud orchestrated by the entire paternal family, including the grandparents present here. The effect was instantaneous. Mr. Harlan's mouth fell open in bewilderment. Carol gave a choked cry. Phil stood up, slamming his palm on the table. That is an infamy, a vile slander. What proof do you have of such an outrage? Brandon said nothing, just sank further into his chair, staring at his hands. We have the notarized gamete donation contract signed by your son, Jake, Sophie continued unperturbed. We have the medical report of your son Brandon, certifying his infertility. And we have the sworn affidavit of your son Jake, detailing how he was coerced by you to participate in this deception, and then sent away to cover your tracks. She took copies of the documents and slid them across the table toward Mr. Harlan. The fraud is evident. My client's motherhood is based on a deception. Therefore, we request its challenge and, consequently, sole custody for the mother. Furthermore, given the very serious nature of the facts and the recent threats and coercion, we request that visits from Mr. and Mrs. Phil and Carol Reynolds be restricted to a minimum, as we consider their influence toxic and manipulative. The room erupted. Phil was livid. That statement is worthless. It is the word of a resentful, useless person who has never done anything for this family, who is lying to get revenge. Lying, father, said Jake. His voice trembled slightly, but it was firm. Lying about how you and mother came to my room crying, saying that Brandon was going to harm himself if he did not have a child? Lying about how you told me it was my duty, that it was for the good of everyone? Lying about the plane ticket to Toronto, and the do not come back until we call you. Carol burst into tears. They were not tears of remorse, but of rage and humiliation. How dare you? After everything we have done for you. We gave you a chance and you gave your brother a daughter, you gave him a family. I did not give him anything. Jake shouted, also on his feet now. You took it from me. And you took it from her. He pointed at me with a trembling finger. And you lied to both of them every day. To her, to Brandon, to Lucy. Enough. Brandon's hoarse, torn voice cut through the shouting. We all turned to him. He stood up, his face contorted. Enough, please. He looked at his parents, then at Jake. Are you happy? Are you happy now that you have destroyed everything? That you have destroyed my daughter? She is not your daughter, Brandon, Jake said with infinite sadness. That is the problem. She never was. Brandon collapsed into his chair, burying his face in his hands. A dry, desperate sob shook his body. Phil seized the moment. He addressed the mediator. This is unheard of, a spectacle. This woman and this unbalanced individual are trying to destroy our family with lies. My son is devastated. And her, look at her. He pointed at me with contempt. She lives in a rented apartment with no steady job. She takes my granddaughter to a hotel, away from her home, her school, her family. And now she brings this troublemaker to sow discord. She is an unstable and dangerous mother. And we have proof. He looked at his lawyer. Mr. Harlan, recovering his composure, took out another file. We have gathered statements from the next-door neighbor, who heard frequent arguments, Mrs. Maya shouting at her husband. From the building's concierge, who saw her arrive in an agitated state on several occasions. Even from a former co-worker who claims Mrs. Maya suffered from anxiety episodes and left projects unfinished. He looked at me. We do not doubt your love for the child, ma'am, but your emotional stability is questionable, to say the least. In the current environment of confrontation and hatred that she herself fosters, the child is at risk. We offer stability, love. A united family. I felt the rage boil inside me. They were lies, exaggerations. The neighbor was a gossip who listened through the door. The concierge had seen me cry once when my mother died. The coworker, an envious rival. They were building a character. The hysterical, unstable mother. Sophie did not flinch. My evidence is legal and medical documents. Yours is neighborhood gossip. But if you want to talk about stability, let us talk. Let us talk about the stability offered by a family that mounts an elaborate fertility deception. Let us talk about the stability offered by grandparents who throw their daughter-in-law out of her house for not giving them a male grandchild. Let us talk about the stability of a father who, knowing he is sterile, allows and participates in that lie for years. What kind of stability is that, Mr. Harlan? The stability of a sham. The mediator looked from one to the other, overwhelmed. It was clear there was no possibility of an agreement, not the slightest. Phil leaned forward, ignoring Sophie, speaking directly to me, in a low voice laden with venom. Maya, think about what you are doing. If you continue down this path, I assure you, you will have nothing. Nothing. You will lose the child, you will ruin her, and you will be left alone in ruins and disgraced. No one will believe you. We are the Reynolds. You are just a failed designer with a disturbed brother-in-law on your side. It was then that I spoke. I did not shout. My voice came out low, clear, and as icy as the marble in their house. Mr. Reynolds. You threw me out of my house. You called me defective. You and your wife planned how to use my body and my life for your sham. You stole from your own son the truth about his daughter, and from your other son, you stole his freedom and his peace. Do not talk to me about honor. Do not talk to me about family. I stood up. Sophie and Jake did the same. There is nothing more to say here. We will see you in court. And there, before a judge, I will show the world what kind of stability the Reynolds offer. And without looking back, I walked out of the room. My legs were shaking, but I walked straight. I had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. The war, the real war, had just been officially declared. And I, for the first time, was not afraid. I had proof. The calm after the mediation was an illusion. Sophie arrived at my Wicker Park apartment with a grave expression. They have filed the formal request for the psychological evaluation. A judge will grant it, it is almost certain. They only need a well-founded suspicion, and with the statements from the neighbor and the ex-coworker, they have it. I leaned against the kitchen counter, feeling a hollowness in my stomach. How long? A few days, maybe a week. Then they will summon you to a forensic psychologist. And while the process lasts, which can take months, they can ask for injunctions, like Lucy spending more time with Brandon or, in the worst-case scenario, staying with them provisionally. Sophie did not sugarcoat things. We have to hit harder and faster. Jake, who was listening from the living room, came closer. Harder? How? We already showed them the papers. It did not matter because it was in a private room, Sophie said, her gaze turning cold and calculating. But what if it is no longer private? What if the pressure does not come from a judge but from the street? From their circle? From their precious reputation? I understood where she was going. The press. Exactly. Not the tabloids. Something with more weight. A serious newspaper. A feature story on patriarchal family structures, reproductive pressures, fertility fraud in high society families. Anonymous but with concrete details. No names but very precise descriptions. Prominent Chicago business family. Businessman of renowned prestige. They will recognize themselves. And when the story starts circulating in the clubs, the boardrooms, the group chats, the pressure will be unbearable for them. It is dangerous, I murmured. For Lucy too. It is. But it is more dangerous for a forensic psychologist, indirectly paid by them, to diagnose you with a personality disorder and take your daughter away for 6 months. 6 months in which they will lecture her, manipulate her. You might never get her back. Sophie placed a hand on mine. It is a dirty move, Maya. But they started this game. We are just changing the rules. I looked at Jake. He nodded slowly. They have to fall. They have to know they cannot control everything. And you? I asked him. If this comes out, your name could come out. Your part in the story. Let it, he said with determination. I would rather the truth be known than have them continue living their lie with impunity. And besides, maybe other people in my situation will not feel so alone. And so we contacted Claire Jenkins, an investigative journalist for the Chicago Tribune. Sophie knew her, trusted her. We met in a discreet bar. Claire was a woman in her 40s with an intelligent, direct gaze. We told her the story. We showed her the documents hiding the names. She took notes without batting an eye. When we finished, she put down her pen. "This is a bombshell," she said at last. "And it is true, you can feel it. Are you sure? This is going to rain down on you too, Maya, and the girl." "I know," I said. "But it will rain harder on them. And I need it to rain hard. I need them to know that their money cannot buy silence." Claire nodded. "I will write it. It will be published on Sunday in the Sunday edition. They have an impact. It will be anonymous but clear. Very clear." She looked at the three of us. "Prepare yourselves. On Sunday, your world and theirs is going to change." The days until Sunday were unbearably tense. Every phone call made me jump. Every ring of the doorbell was a threat. Lucy sensed my nervousness. "Mommy, are the bad men coming again?" "No, sweetie, no one is coming. We are safe here." It was a necessary lie. We were not safe. We were just waiting. On Saturday night, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered, my heart in my throat. It was Brandon. His voice sounded different, broken, maybe drunk. "Maya, please stop this. I do not know what you are talking about." "Yes, you do. That journalist, Claire Jenkins. My father has friends at the newspaper. They have been tipped off. It is coming out tomorrow. A feature story. They say it is going to be a massacre." He swallowed hard. "Maya, I am begging you. Stop it. Call that woman. Tell her you made a mistake. Whatever you want. Money, full custody, the house, everything. But stop this." "Stop what, Brandon? The truth from coming out? People from knowing what kind of man your father is? What kind of mother your mother is? They are my parents. It is my family. It is my name," he shouted desperately. "You are going to destroy everything. And then what? What do you gain from this? Revenge? Is that it? To get revenge on me?" I was silent for a moment. It was not revenge. It was survival. I gain not having my daughter taken from me. I gain that people like your parents cannot keep hurting others with impunity. I gain my freedom, Brandon. Something you never had the courage to have. There was a silence. Then his voice turned into a whisper full of hatred and self-pity. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I had never met you." He hung up. I stood there trembling, not with fear, but with a cold, clean rage. He still did not get it. He was not the victim. We were. Lucy and I and Jake. And maybe deep down him too. But he was a victim who had chosen to be an executioner. On Sunday morning, the article was on the front page of the Sunday supplement. The headline was direct. "The price of appearances. The intimate fraud of a business saga." There were no names, but the descriptions were so precise that anyone in the Reynolds circle would know immediately who was being talked about. Real estate sector entrepreneur, matriarch of old lineage, 2 brothers, one the designated heir, the other the donor, forced into exile, the daughter-in-law used as an instrument without her consent. The words were knives. And the report went further, recounting the scene of my expulsion from the home, the custody requests. It painted a picture of cynicism, manipulation, and cruelty disguised as tradition. The effect was instantaneous. My phone started ringing. Friends I had not seen since the wedding, former coworkers, even my ex-boss. Some were messages of support, others of morbid curiosity. I turned it off. Sophie called the landline. It worked. "I just got a call from Mr. Harlan, their lawyer. He is unhinged. They want another urgent meeting. They have withdrawn the request for a psychological evaluation." Immense but brief relief washed over me. What else? They have offered a new deal. Entirely in your favor. Sole custody for you, a very high compensatory pension. Brandon's express waiver of legal paternity in exchange for you not filing the paternity challenge suit, and silence. That we do not talk to the press anymore, that we do not take the case to court. Waiver of paternity, I repeated, stunned. It was what I wanted, but for them to offer it like that so soon. The article hurt them more than we thought. Phil Reynolds has a shareholders meeting for his main company on Thursday. He cannot let this escalate. He needs it to calm down and fast. And what do you say? I asked, feeling the power shift tangibly for the first time. Let us just say they are negotiating from a place of desperation, but they still have cards to play. They could try to discredit you in other, dirtier ways. Or they could drag out the legal process until you are broke. This deal is good, Maya. Very good. It gives you the essentials. Lucy, financial security, and Brandon's head on a platter. But, she paused, it does not hit them where it hurts most. Their public image. They hide behind a confidential agreement. No one will ever know the full truth. They will still be the respectable Reynolds with their little family secret. You will go on with your life with money, but they will go unpunished. What should I do? That is up to you. Do you want justice or do you want peace? Because sometimes they are not the same thing. I thought about it. I looked toward Lucy's room, where she was coloring quietly. Peace. She needed peace. She needed to get away from this nightmare. But I needed justice. I needed the world to see who they were. I want both, I said finally. But if I have to choose, I choose Lucy. I choose peace for her. But not at any price. Then ask for more, Sophie said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Ask them for something that really hurts them. Something that is not just money. I did not have to think long. I want a letter signed by all three of them, Phil, Carol, and Brandon, where they admit in their own handwriting to the deception, the coercion of Jake, everything. Not to make it public. For me. So Lucy will have it when she is older, so she knows the truth in their own hand. And I want Jake to be recognized before a notary as the biological father, with all the rights that entails if he wishes, and for Lucy's birth certificate to be rectified. Sophie whistled softly. That is nuclear, Maya. Signing that letter would be like signing their own moral death sentence for them. And the thing with Jake, that would be public on the record. They could not hide it. I know. That is my condition. I hung up. I felt strangely light. I had thrown down the gauntlet. Now it was up to them to stoop and pick it up. The answer came that same afternoon. Not through Sophie. It was a direct call to the landline. Carol's voice on the other end was a thread, devoid of its usual coldness. She sounded broken. Maya, please. The letter. We cannot. It is our ruin. Brandon's. What kind of life will he have after that? And Jake, what does he gain from this but destroying his family? Jake has no family left to destroy, Carol. You destroyed it. And Brandon made his choice. My daughter is not going to grow up believing a lie. That is my condition. There was a sob. He will not accept it. Phil would rather go to trial. He would rather burn it all down than sign that. Then let it burn, I said and hung up. Minutes later it rang again. This time it was Phil's voice. Grave, hoarse, filled with a contained fury you could almost touch. Who do you think you are to give us conditions? An upstart, a nobody. That article is garbage. We will discredit it, and we will bury you. Try it, Mr. Reynolds, I said with a calm that surprised me. But by then, the Reynolds name will be synonymous with lies and manipulation all over Chicago. Your shareholders meeting on Thursday is going to be very interesting. The silence was absolute. I had hit him where it hurt, his wallet, his power. The letter, he said at last, his voice a harsh whisper. It is impossible. Then there is no deal. Fine. We will give you double the money. Triple, he shouted, losing his temper. I do not want your money. I want the truth. Signed. There was another, longer silence, then a noise as if the phone had been dropped. I heard muffled voices in the background arguing. Carol's sharp. Brandon's whining. Phil's roaring. After a while a new voice. Brandon. He sounded shattered. Maya. I will sign the letter. Whatever you want. But my parents will not. They cannot. It has to be all three, Brandon. Or it is not valid. They just cannot. His voice was a cry of desperation. My mother, Maya. My mother is pregnant. The world stood still. What? Yes. They just found out. She is 58. It was a surprise. A madness. But she is pregnant. And with the stress of all this, the doctor says that any shock, any severe tension, could cause her to lose the baby. Signing that letter would be too much for her, for the baby. Please. His plea was genuine, desperate. Do not ask that of her. Not now. I leaned against the wall. Carol pregnant. At her age. It was impossible, ironic, tragic. After all this, after throwing out her daughter-in-law for not giving them a male heir, nature or science or chance, was giving them another opportunity. A new heir. The news changed everything and nothing. My daughter was still my daughter. Their lie was still their lie. But now there was an innocent baby in the middle of it all. A baby that could be born under the weight of a monumental scandal, or that could be born into a family that had perhaps learned something. Oh no, Maya. Brandon's voice was barely a thread. I will talk to Sophie, I said and hung up. I did not know what to do. The bomb from the article had exploded, but a bigger, unexpected bomb had just fallen in the middle of the battlefield. And its silent explosion changed everything. Carol's pregnancy was an earthquake, not just biological but strategic. Sophie stayed up all night reevaluating every move. It is a brutal emotional weapon, she said the next day, her eyes bloodshot. And they are going to use it. In court they will not talk about the fraud. They will talk about the pregnant grandmother, a victim of the stress caused by the ruthless daughter-in-law. About the family that wants to rally around the new baby, with the older granddaughter included. And what do we do? I asked, feeling defensive again. The image of Carol, vulnerable and pregnant, was powerful despite all the hatred I felt for her. We stand firm on the cold law. Our case is solid. The fraud invalidates any claim from Brandon. Carol's pregnancy is irrelevant to that. But emotionally, in the atmosphere of the trial, it can tip the scales. Judges are human. Sophie frowned. We have to be smarter. Jake, your testimony is now more crucial than ever. You have to be impeccable, credible, pained but firm. Not a resentful son, but a man who was robbed of his right to the truth and to his daughter. Jake nodded. He had spent the last few days preparing with a consultant Sophie had hired. I know what I have to say. And you, Maya, Sophie turned to me. You have to be the rock. The protective mother, yes, but also the betrayed woman seeking justice for her daughter, not revenge. No attacks on Carol for her pregnancy. On the contrary, if it comes up, you say you are sorry, that you wish her well, but that the well-being of your daughter Lucy is your absolute priority. That their lie has harmed Lucy, and that is what the judge must repair. I nodded. I could do it. I could separate the resentment from the justice. Or at least pretend to. The days leading up to the trial were a whirlwind of preparations, preliminary statements, and stress. The news of the pregnancy leak somehow appeared in a gossip magazine. Surprise in the Reynolds saga. The matriarch expecting a baby in the midst of a family crisis. The article was cloying, painting Carol as a fertility hero and, between the lines, suggesting I was the one disturbing the family's happiness. It was the narrative they wanted. The morning of the trial, the courthouse was filled with an expectant murmur. There were journalists, although they would not be allowed into the courtroom. Phil and Carol arrived together. She wore a loose dress, barely hinting at the pregnancy, but she placed a hand on her belly from time to time with a theatrical gesture. Phil Grave held her arm. Brandon arrived separately, alone, haggard, looking like a stranger in his parents' drama. Our entrance was more discreet. Me in a dark, serious pantsuit. Sophie with her impeccable folder. Jake in a clean, composed sport coat. We sat at the plaintiff's table. They at the other. The judge, a middle-aged woman with an expressionless face and reading glasses, entered and began the hearing. The initial proceedings were dry. The paternity challenge suit on my part, their counterclaim asking for shared custody and questioning my fitness as a mother. Mr. Harlan, their lawyer, spoke first. He deployed skillful rhetoric. He spoke of the painful misunderstanding that had led to an unfortunate separation. He subtly admitted that there were irregularities in the conception process, but framed them as a desperate act of family love, in the face of Brandon's tragic infertility. He painted Jake as a confused young man who was now resentfully exaggerating the facts. And then he introduced the topic of the pregnancy. Your Honor, my clients only desire peace. To rebuild their family. Mrs. Carol Reynolds at her age faces a high-risk pregnancy. A pregnancy that is a miracle but also a source of great anxiety. Anxiety that is aggravated by this process by the smear campaign against her family. What they ask for is simple. To be able to raise their granddaughter Lucy in an environment of love and stability, along with their new son. It is natural for the girl to grow up with her brother. It was disgustingly good. Sophie, when it was her turn, was a scalpel. Cold precise. She presented the documents one by one. Brandon's medical report, the notarized contract, Carol's note. There is no misunderstanding, Your Honor. There is a premeditated fraud, planned and executed by the defendants. A fraud that turned my client into an instrument without her knowledge or consent. Mr. Brandon Reynolds's paternity is based on that deception. Therefore it is null and void. As for Mrs. Carol's pregnancy, I am sorry for her situation, but it is irrelevant to this case. What is relevant is the harm caused to a 5-year-old girl, who has been robbed of her biological truth and who they are trying to separate from her mother, who is the only true and non-fraudulent parental figure in this room. The tension in the room was palpable. The judge took notes impassive. Then came the testimonies. First mine. Sophie guided me with simple questions. I recounted what happened on the night of the dinner, my voice as serene as possible. When describing how Brandon threw the box, I noticed the judge briefly look up. I spoke of my discovery of my shock. Mr. Harlan, in his cross-examination, tried by all means to make me seem unbalanced. Is it not true, Mrs. Reynolds, that you traveled frequently for work, leaving the child in the care of her grandparents? They were sporadic trips of 2 or 3 days, and Lucy was always with her father, or if he could not be there, with a trusted babysitter. Is it not true that your relationship with your mother-in-law was conflictive? We had our differences, like many daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law. Differences that led to shouting, according to witnesses? We argued. Never in front of Lucy. And is it not true that after discovering these papers, your first impulse was not to protect your daughter, but to contact a newspaper to get revenge? Sophie stood up. Objection, Your Honor. Speculation and irrelevant. Sustained. Stick to the facts, counsel, the judge said dryly. Mr. Harlan changed tactics. Mrs. Reynolds, do you love your daughter? With all my soul. And you believe that exposing this matter publicly, ruining your daughter's family name, exposing her to the knowledge that she is the result of such an irregular arrangement, is what is best for her. It was a low blow. I felt the rage rise, but I remembered Sophie's words. I breathed. I believe the worst thing for my daughter is to live a lie. I believe the best thing I can give her is the truth. And a mother who defends her, instead of a family that uses her to keep up appearances. Mr. Harlan could not get anything more out of me. My testimony was over. Then they called Brandon. It was disastrous for them. He stammered, contradicted himself. He admitted he knew about his infertility before the wedding. He admitted he signed the insemination papers without telling me. But when Mr. Harlan asked if he felt like Lucy's father, he broke down in tears. She is my daughter. I have raised her, I have loved her. I do not know anything else but being her father. It was heartbreaking, and for a moment a part of me felt pity. But then Sophie stood up for the cross-examination. Mr. Reynolds, if you love her so much, why did you allow your parents to throw her and her daughter out of their home? I could not stop it. The pressure. The pressure to admit the truth, or the pressure to maintain the lie. She was your family, and was not your daughter also your family? Why did not you defend her? Brandon could not answer, just sobbed broken. The judge watched without blinking. Carol's testimony was brief. She clung to the pregnancy. She said she felt terrorized by my hatred. She denied having coerced Jake, said it was a loving family decision. But under Sophie's questioning, her story fell apart. She could not coherently explain why they had hidden the documents, why they had sent Jake away. It was to protect everyone, she repeated, placing her hand on her belly. It was obvious even to the judge that she was lying. And then it was Jake's turn. He walked to the stand with a firm step. He swore to tell the truth, and he told it with a clarity and pain that was chilling. He told of the pressure, the emotional blackmail, the feeling of betrayal. He told of his self-imposed exile, his constant guilt. He did not attack. He just described. His words were simple, direct, and for that reason devastating. When he described the first time he saw Lucy after years, through the door of the Wicker Park apartment, his voice broke. It was like seeing a piece of my soul outside my body and knowing I had no right to claim it. Mr. Harlan tried to discredit him, painting him as resentful. Is it not true, Mr. Reynolds, that you were always envious of your older brother, the heir? Jake looked at him steadily. What I felt was compassion. Because he had everything, but he did not have the freedom to be himself. And now I see that I did not either. This lie trapped us all. It was the final nail. Jake's statement was so honest, so devoid of resentment, that it was irrefutable. Even the judge's face seemed to soften a fraction. The closing arguments were a duel of narratives. Mr. Harlan appealed to family peace, to forgiveness, to the new beginning the baby represented. Sophie appealed to justice, to truth as the foundation of the minor's emotional health, and to the protection of the mother-child relationship, the only genuine one in this web of falsehoods. The judge concluded the hearing. Ruling in 15 days, she announced. Leaving the courtroom was surreal. The journalists swarmed. Phil and Carol hurried away, protected by their lawyer. Brandon vanished through another door. We, Sophie, Jake, and I left through a side exit. There is no way to know what the judge is thinking, Sophie said in the taxi back. But Jake, you were brilliant. He nodded but seemed empty, exhausted. I just told the truth. It hurts more than I thought. The 2 weeks of waiting were torture. I lived on edge for a call from Sophie. I spent time with Lucy, trying to give her a sense of normalcy in the midst of the chaos. Jake stayed in Chicago, in a small rented apartment nearby. We saw each other often. A strange complicity had been born between us, forged in the fire of the battle. Finally, the day came. We did not have to go to the courthouse. Sophie would pick up the ruling. She summoned us to her office. She entered with a folder in her hand. Her face was inscrutable. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. Jake was beside me, motionless. Sit down, Sophie said. We sat. She sat across from us. She opened the folder. It is long. But the ruling is clear. She paused, looking at both of us. Then she read, having considered the evidence, the court grants the paternity challenge filed by Maya Reynolds against Brandon Reynolds. The paternal filiation registered in favor of Brandon Reynolds is declared null and void. A sob of relief escaped me. Jake closed his eyes. Consequently, Sophie continued, and as there is no other legally recognized paternal filiation, sole and exclusive custody of the minor, Lucy Reynolds, is granted to the mother, Maya Reynolds. A visitation schedule for the non-custodial parent, which in this case, as one does not legally exist, is rendered moot. It meant Brandon had no right to see her unless I allowed it. It was an absolute, unexpected victory. Restraining order, Sophie read on. The 500-foot order of protection for the paternal grandparents, Phil and Carol Reynolds, with respect to the minor and the mother, is confirmed. Their request for a visitation schedule is denied, as the risk of emotional manipulation has been proven. They were out. Completely. As for the declaration of biological paternity requested by Jake Reynolds, the judge accepts it for processing but does not declare it in this ruling. She indicates that it is a separate procedure requiring DNA testing and a voluntary or contested process. But, and this is important, she recognizes his standing to initiate it. That is to say, the door is open, Jake. If you want, you can now request the DNA test and recognition. Jake nodded slowly. He did not seem euphoric. He seemed relieved and overwhelmed. Finally, Sophie looked down at the paper. Regarding the costs of the proceedings, they are imposed on the defendants, that is, Brandon, Phil, and Carol Reynolds, jointly and severally. They will pay all our fees and court costs. She placed the paper on the table. The silence was absolute. Then I covered my face with my hands and began to cry. They were not tears of joy, but of immense release, of months of tension overflowing. I had one. We had one. Lucy was mine, only mine, and they could not touch us. Jake put a hand on my shoulder. You did it, Maya. We did it. I corrected, drying my tears. The two of us and Sophie. The lawyer gave a tired but satisfied smile. It was a good ruling. Very clear. The judge was not impressed by the pregnancy theater. She saw the fraud, saw the manipulation, and acted accordingly. And now? I asked, catching my breath. Now they can appeal, but with such a strong ruling, it is unlikely to be overturned. And considering Carol's pregnancy and the media pressure, they might prefer to cut their losses. Lick their wounds in private. Sophie leaned forward. Maya, this is over. You have your life back and Lucy's. We left Sophie's office, intoxicated by the victory. On the street, the Chicago sun was shining. For the first time in months, I noticed its warmth. Jake walked beside me. What will you do now? I asked him. Stay. For a while. Settle the paternity thing if you agree. Not to take anything from you. To have a place, any place you and she will allow me. His voice was humble. You are her biological father, Jake, and my ally. That means something forever. I smiled at him, a real tired smile. You have a place. Whichever one you want. He nodded, moved. Thank you, Maya. I got to my apartment. Lucy was with the babysitter. I hugged her tightly, inhaling her child's smell. Mommy, are you crying? She asked, concerned. Yes, sweetie, but happy tears. Because everything is going to be okay. The bad men are not coming anymore? No, my love. They are not coming anymore. The ruling was more than a piece of paper. It was a wall, a border. On the other side lay the ruins of the Reynolds lie. On this side our life began. A life with truth, with scars, but ours. At last completely ours. The Chicago summer fell like a blanket of dry heat and merciless light. The ruling, that document of thick pages and legal phrases, became the new foundation of our life. It did not bring euphoria. It brought a deep silence, a space to breathe that at first felt strange, almost oppressive in its newness. The first week was one of logistical adjustments. Sophie took care of notifying the civil registry of the ruling. Brandon's name was removed from Lucy's filiation. In its place was a blank space, a dash next to the word father. It was a legal void, but for me it was filled with a quieter truth. Jake, with my explicit consent, began the process for recognition of biological paternity. It was a colder procedure, with DNA tests included, but we faced it with a practical serenity. It was not a battle. It was a formality to give Lucy and him a clear future. One afternoon, while Lucy was napping, exhausted from the heat, I sat in the living room with the cardboard box where I kept all the papers from the trial. The ruling, the reports, the contract, Carol's note, and the letter. The letter they never got around to signing. I had kept it as a reminder of the last line they did not cross. Jake knocked on the door. He had returned to Chicago after a few weeks in Toronto to finalize his permanent move. He brought a small gift for Lucy, a puzzle. He sat across from me, looking at the box. What are you going to do with all that? He asked calmly. I do not know. Keep it, I guess. For Lucy when she is older. That is a heavy burden for a child. And for you. His eyes, so similar to Lucy's in certain lights, watched me. Not everything that happened has to define what comes next. I knew he was right. I took out the documents, touched them one by one. The contract, that notarized paper that had dictated our fates. Carol's note with its neat handwriting and poisonous words. They were the instruments of our prison, and we were already free. Do you have a light? I asked. Jake did not question it. He nodded. He took a lighter from his pocket. We went to the small terrace where there was an empty cement planter. The heat was still. I placed the papers inside, making a neat pile. I left the ruling aside. Not that one. That was our liberation, not our chain. I lit a corner of the contract. The flame took a moment to catch, greedily licking the paper. Then it spread, consuming the legal phrases, the signatures, the date. I added Carol's note. The fire crackled, turning the words "for the good of the family" to ash. One by one I added the medical reports, the copies of the statements. A thin gray smoke rose into the clear Chicago sky. It was not dramatic. It was a simple, almost mundane act. The destruction of evidence we no longer needed. Jake watched in silence. When only embers and ashes remained, he said, I can never thank you enough, Maya, for allowing me to be here, for giving me the chance to be something even if it is not a conventional father. You are her Uncle Jake and her biological origin. That is something real, and now it is something clean. No secrets. I turned to him. And what will you do now that you can choose? Stay. Chicago is not the same place I left. And I am not the same either. I have a job offer here, in an engineering firm, far from the family business. A shy smile appeared on his lips. And I want to watch Lucy grow up. From a distance, from however you allow me. She loves you, Jake. In her own way. You are the uncle who came to help us. To her, that is everything. I sighed, looking at the ashes. And them? Do you know anything? The smile vanished. My father, the company. The scandal from the article combined with the ruling. There was a restructuring on the board. He is still in charge, but weakened. Very weakened. My mother gave birth. A boy. The news hit me despite everything. A boy. Yes. 2 weeks ago. Everything went well, according to what Brandon told me. He paused. Yes, I talk to him from time to time. He is devastated, but something in him has changed. Maybe losing everything has made him see something. He moved into a small apartment. He is starting over in another job, away from my father. He says he wants to try to be a person, not just a Reynolds. I did not know what to feel. Relief, pity, maybe a bit of both. And your relationship with your parents? Broken. With my mother especially. The baby is her new project, her redemption. My father clings to him like a lifeline. He is his legitimate heir. Finally, Jake shook his head. I will not see them much. I do not want to. I have decided my family is here now, where they will let me be. The months passed. Autumn tinged the trees of Wicker Park yellow. Lucy started a new school. The first few days were tough, but she was a resilient child. She had learned in her short life that foundations sometimes move, but that her mother was a pillar that did not yield. I went back to my freelance graphic design work with a renewed intensity. The fight had taken a lot from me, but it had also given me a fierce strength and a clear vision that my clients valued. One October evening, Jake came for dinner. It was a ritual we had established. Fridays. He cooked sometimes, I did others. Lucy would show him her drawings, tell him her stories. He listened to her with a moving attentiveness. He was not the traditional father figure, nor did he pretend to be. He was an ally, a constant, kind adult in her life. One afternoon, Lucy, looking at an old photo album, pointed to a picture from her first birthday where Brandon was lifting her in his arms. He is not my daddy anymore? She asked with the direct curiosity of children. Jake and I exchanged a look. We had prepared for this with the help of a child psychologist. No, sweetie, I said softly. He thought he was, but he was mistaken. Sometimes grown-ups make big mistakes. But he loved me, did he not? Yes, he did love you. In his own way. It was the most complex and honest truth I could give her. So I do not have a daddy. Jake took a deep breath. You have your mommy, who loves you more than anything in the world. And you have me as your uncle and as someone who is here because he wants to be, because you are very special to me. He held out his hand to her, and after a second she took it. Your family is the people who love you and take care of you, Lucy. It does not matter what they are called. She looked at him thoughtfully. Then she nodded with the practical wisdom of children. Okay. Are you making mac and cheese today? The tension broke. Of course, Jake laughed. The best mac and cheese in all of Wicker Park. That night, after putting Lucy to bed, Jake and I had coffee on the terrace wrapped in jackets. The air was cool. Do you think it will be enough? He asked, looking at the lit-up city. What? This strange setup. Me as the uncle who comes on Fridays. You raising her alone. The shadow of everything that happened. It is not a shadow, Jake. It is the ground we are building on. And it is solid because it is true. I looked at him. You did not leave when you could have. You stayed. For her, over time that will be everything. For me it already is. He nodded, emotional. I never felt like a part of something real until now. One day, months later, I received an envelope. There was no return address, but I recognized the paper and the letterhead. It was from Phil's company. Inside was a check, a very, very significant amount, and a typewritten note without a signature. It just said, "For Lucy's education." It is her right. I showed it to Sophie. She raised an eyebrow. This is more than what the ruling stipulated. It is an extra payment. Are you going to accept it? I thought about it. It was their money, tainted money. But it was also money that could give Lucy opportunities, travel, a good university, security. It was not for me. It was for her. And it was perhaps the closest thing to reparations I would ever get. Yes, I said. I will accept it. For Lucy. Then we will deposit it into an account in her name, untouchable until she is of age. Perfect. Winter arrived, and with it, the first Christmas in our apartment. It was modest, intimate. A small tree lights presents. Jake came on Christmas Eve. He helped set up an electric train around the tree that fascinated Lucy. We cooked together, we laughed. There was none of the cold opulence of Christmas at the Reynolds house. There was warmth, a bit messy but real. After dinner, Lucy fell asleep on the sofa, exhausted with happiness. Jake and I cleaned up in silence. As I passed the tree, I saw a small envelope hanging from a branch. My name. I opened it. It was from Jake. Maya, the handwritten letter said. I am not a man of big words. I just wanted to say thank you. For your courage, which gave me mine. For your strength, which held us both up. For allowing me to reclaim a piece of my home that I thought was lost forever. Wherever you go, you will always have an ally, a brother, or simply Jake. With all my respect and my gratitude. J. I folded the letter. I looked at Jake, who was drying a plate, concentrating. I said nothing. I did not need to. The following spring, I was walking with Lucy in Lincoln Park. She ran ahead, chasing pigeons. She was wearing a red dress that contrasted with the new green of the grass. She stopped by the pond, pointing at the ducks. Look, Mommy. I walked over. Her little face was lit up by the sun. It was her completely. A whole being, separate from me but profoundly mine. Free from lies, free from absurd expectations. Just a girl in a park on a sunny day. Suddenly she turned to me. Mommy, my name is Lucy Reynolds, right? Yes, sweetie. Lucy Reynolds was the name we had put on her new ID after the ruling. Just Reynolds. Our surname. Hers and mine. I like it, she said decisively. It sounds strong. Yes, I whispered, crouching down to hug her. It sounds very strong. And it was. It was not a name that carried the weight of a saga. It was a name that was being built day by day, with truth, with choice, with the fierce love of a mother who had walked through fire to give it to her. It was not the end of a story. It was simply our beginning. Did you enjoy this story? Leave a comment and hit the subscribe button to support the channel. More tales are on the way.